My name is Mustafa Kibaroglu. I'm from Turkey. I'm a professor of international relations. I got my PhD in 1996. During my PhD studies, I was a fellow at the United Nations Institute for Disarmament Research Unit here in Geneva, and I had International Atomic Energy Agency Fellowship, which I used at the University of Southampton. And then I had a postdoctoral fellowship at the Monterey Institute of International Studies Center for Non-Proliferation Studies. Then after all that, I returned back to my country and started teaching in the Department of International Relations at Kent University, where I did my PhD. I have an engineering background. I studied industrial engineering at the Boğaziçi University. It is formerly American Lower College in Istanbul, where language of instruction was and still is fully in English. Then I did a master's degree in economics, and I was planning to move on to become a CEO in my next life. One of my professors told me to pursue a career in academia and pursue PhD. And my intention was to pursue a PhD in economics, but I found myself in international relations. And during my PhD studies, after completing the comprehensive exam and everything, I was just about to choose a subject. One of my professors came to me and said they had a discussion with the Turkish diplomats who were looking forward to having some PhD candidates who would deal with the non-proliferation, arms control, disarmament issues, but that kind of people should have background in economics, in engineering, in international relations, and there was no one like that, and they said, no, we're a guy looking for a subject. So that's how I found myself in writing a dissertation, doctoral dissertation in nuclear non-proliferation regime. And engineering studies teach you to go to the heart of the issue and find a solution. No matter what the consequences are, you come up with some specific and practical sort of means and methods and ways to solve the problem. So this, learning this in my undergrad studies, of course, and then I was introduced to especially political science after economics, because economics still has a number of, many parts that are numerical and empirical studies, but social sciences, I remember my first years actually first couple of years when I was taking classes, I was forced to take extra classes because of my engineering background. I never sort of complain about that, because the more I know, the better I would be in the field. And I could read maybe 200, 300 pages one through the night, and then I have learned reading very fast. But it was a whole new world. But what I figured out is that social science is not to criticize anyone. Please don't be offended. But there are, sort of those circumventing around the essential part of the issue. My habit is just go to the heart of the matter, and this is how I understand. That's one of the pluses that I could tell. The second part is, since in nuclear weapons issue, you have to have some knowledge about chemistry, physics, and lots of mathematics, depending on what part of the issue you cover, I had no difficulty. But when now I write on board, uranium has two major isotopes, 235, students are like, oh, sir, what is this? No, don't worry. They don't want to see numbers other than page numbers, right? Or dates or whatever. So engineering background gave me the ability to grasp the nuclear issue much faster than maybe many would think of. So I think these are things that added to my understanding and knowledge. And also, of course, maybe they have also opened the way or paved the way for additional or next fellowship, because I was studying very hard in my undergrad studies. It's Turkey's best university. Many people compare to Harvard of Turkey and Bosphorus University. So having studied hard there as an undergraduate student, And during my fellowship, I also performed the same habits and principle of hard work. And people have seen my hard work and suggested me or referred to other institutions to get another fellowship, another fund, or another sort of a scholarship. So hard work pays, and I learned a lot, but I never said I'm done. And I always tell myself, or call myself a student of international relations. I introduced a course on arms control, disarmament, and non-proliferation. At the time, it was the one and only course, and since then, since 1997, if to my knowledge, if I'm not mistaken, still the one and only course fully covering arms control, disarmament, and non-proliferation issues during the entire semester and focused on the subject both at undergraduate and graduate levels. So this is what I do. I'm a proponent of nuclear disarmament, and I believe in the merits of arms control because we have to be realistic while idealistic as well. But this project, Beyond Nuclear Deterrence, is something that gave me the opportunity to do what I was intending to do for quite a long time because the way I teach this subject, I'm trying to be as objective as possible and without any prejudice against anyone else's thoughts. But also, I'm aware of the certain degree of prejudices in the minds of the students that come to my class who believe in the merits of nuclear power and prestige. But at the end of the semester, I see in their eyes and in their attitude, in their writings and words, that they have truly understood and digested the dangers associated with nuclear weapons. So I believe the teaching of nuclear deterrence must be given attention and priority, especially in raising the next generations of decision makers, political advisors, because these guys will guide us and will govern us in the next decades. And therefore, I want to leave something that will tackle their mind before giving their ultimate decision on pressing the button in case there is a nuclear confrontation, the risk of nuclear confrontation. And when you look back in history, you can go, I don't know, I feel like thousands of years, where just yesterday we were in the pyramids. So 3,000 years of history. I mean, human beings, environment changes, technology changes, but their motivations are pretty much the same. And they're motivated with in gaining more, because this is the base of realist paradigm. But what distinguishes nuclear from all the other weapon systems is that, radiation. Look back in where, Waterloo took place. You can see a residential area or other places where the bloody, fightings and wars that may have taken place. There's life going on. But if a nuclear war, God forbid, takes place, there will be no life or almost no life. And you know what? One nuclear submarine carries nuclear weapons whose explosive power is equivalent to 7 times the entire explosions took place during World War II. That's unbelievable, and there are thousands of these weapons around the world. Yes, we should acknowledge that no one is going to give up nuclear weapons tomorrow or maybe in the foreseeable future. But just like my son used to ask me, this is almost an impossible task, but I believe someone should, undertake this kind of responsibility to learn the subject with all its aspects and to teach the subject with all its aspects to everyone. And in the meantime, build credibility in the eyes of these, students, the audience, that what you tell them is not just an ideological disposition per se, but it's a reality that may, God forbid, may happen in the not too distant future, because there are too many weapons around. And yes, we have come down from tens of thousands of nuclear weapons to maybe 5-digit numbers like US and Russia now, much less in other countries, but still one too many. And nuclear weapons, the dangers and the the sort of effects that they can create are irreversible. So therefore, we should. My emphasis. I start with this at the beginning of the semester in my teaching, and I end up at the end of the semester with this. Don't categorize nuclear weapons with all the other weapons in the same category. You must distinguish between nuclear weapons and the rest, because no effects can be reversible. It will take tens of thousands of years for the half-lives of plutonium, uranium, etc. So therefore, I think we must feel like we are on a sacred mission to inform at least, we missed this generation maybe, but the next generation. You never know. One man may make a change in countries like Atatürk did for the Turks when the Ottoman Empire collapsed and built a republic out of the ashes of the empire and launched the war of liberation against all the occupying powers. Just one man did this, of course, with all the others, but he was the one who mobilized the entire nation. So maybe one of our students in 10 years from or 20 years from today may occupy such responsible posts that may take decisions and may also be under the influence of things that we may have taught him or her. Well, to be honest, I have some of my students who are really occupying very, very important posts these days and also in the past and probably in the future as well. And I still have good contact with them and they still listen to me. And I believe I can still affect some of their decisions. And I suggest everyone should be somewhat concerned and do his or her best in terms of raising the next generation of people who at least understand the effects of nuclear weapons. These are not some things that can be compared to any other weapon system on Earth. Well, actually, there was one for so many years, and always emphasize this issue. Well, there is this habit in normal people like ourselves who are not necessarily, and they don't have to be an expert on all these subjects, but it didn't happen so far, so it's not that likely to happen in the future. But certain things happen only once, maybe twice in history. So I'm really concerned about the possibility of falling into the hands of this nuclear material, even maybe bombs, into the hands of terrorist organizations, especially transnational terrorist organizations, who are not only very difficult to track with, I mean, you don't know who they are, where they are, and also very, very difficult to deter because most of them are religiously motivated. So the biggest threat that I see for the future of humanity is the terrorism weapons of mass destruction. Nuclear radiological material can be exploded and dispersed into the atmosphere, into the air, and making people sick for an extended period, or panic everything. So that's one thing. And second is, because of what is going on now in Ukraine and other parts of the world, there are wars, and the there was a period of hope in the immediate aftermath of Cold War, and U.S., Russia, the non-nuclear program, cooperative trade reduction, all this and that. So Russia and the United States were cooperating to prevent illegal trafficking of nuclear material, or keeping them safe, secure in their proper places, and get rid of them to dismantle the Cold War period. But because of what is happening over the past several years, U.S.-Russia relations are very tense. Arms control doesn't exist anymore, and the last arms control treaty, a New START, will expire just a year from today, and there's no light at the end of the tunnel. There is no prospect for continuation or something to replace arms control negotiations or arms control treaties. And I think this will encourage many more states to go nuclear, because the NPT now for second time in a row, ended up with no final document. which is not a good sign because people, countries trust in the power of the NPT, and the non-proliferation regime may be decimated, may just go away, and they might just look around and say, well, why not? Maybe we should also go think about going nuclear, which will, of course, unfortunately, may increase the number of states going nuclear, and in 10, 20 years from today, we may end up with many more states, just like Robert McNamara, upon the request of John F. Kennedy, did a study back in 1963 and came up with a report that unless somehow prevented, in the next 20 years, there may be some 20 to 30 nuclear weapon states or nuclear weapon capable states. So we are almost at the same threshold today. So the NPT and non-proliferation regime must be strengthened. And the key, and number one key to this is somehow normalizing the U.S.-Russia relations, which is not on the horizon. So that also really concerns me a lot.